pledge. Mr. Lombardi, will you start it for us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow. A lot of people here today. Is there any public comment? Going once? Is there any public comment?
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to come down and share with everybody. I'm meeting right here.
Oh, state your name and address for record, please.
Danny Staferi.
Can you come
Come
to
to
the
the mic,
microphone?
please.
Yep. See, now you might as well carry it, right?
Hello, everybody. I'm just gonna right here. Show it off a little bit.
Oh,
Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Staferi. I'm the operations director of the Hurricanes, and I wanted to come down and share some good news that we are two-time DCA champions for the DCA organization for the town of Seymour. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we did it. And I'd like to present the first place medal. We're going to have a plaque made up with our picture and all that other stuff saying who we are and where we're from. And I'd like to thank the town for your support.
Thank you.
The fields, the show this year was a great success. We turned it into a music clinic this year, and we gave over 400 kids a free admission, plus a music clinic. We had Brian Command perform, and we had New Milford perform. And it was basically, we turned a little bit of a negative with not having a lot of course competing into an educational thing for the kids. And we got a grant to cover a lot of all of that cost to get the kids in. And I'd like to thank the fire department, EMS, the town hall, the police department, everybody that helped us out with that. It was a great honor, and it's an honor for me to be a town resident and represent the Hurricanes in all of this. So again, I thank everybody, and if you see a Hurricane jacket, some of the young kids around, it really means a lot to them. If you see them and say thank you.
Thank you. It means a lot to Seymour that we are the home of the Connecticut Hurricanes.
And
So
we're
thank
making
you.
some great strides. Next year, we're going to be going to Indianapolis, no more Rochester. The season's going to end earlier, and now we have to figure out how to get 3 buses up to Rochester.
No,
Indianapolis, I'm sorry. It's a lot. We're already starting planning for next year.
That's great.
I'd like to say again, thank you. I'll be out of your way, and I'll let you get to your meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good show. Well, the kids did very well. We're going to have some videos to post you'll be able to share.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
We like to share.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Yes, oh, hold on.
I just wanted to state, as the MC for the Memorial Day Parade each year, the Hurricanes pay such a terrific tribute to veterans and those who lost their lives. You are outstanding.
Thank you.
We're proud of you.
We're going to be doing the Veterans Concert again, hopefully next year again for our American Legion.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stephen, Phil's batteries are dead on his microphone.
And my pacemaker.
Phil, do you want to see if this one or Bob's works and you can just move for the evening?
We wouldn't want you to be without a microphone, Phil.
I had a big voice.
I know you do.
Quarters out Bruno on it. Say what you like.
That's right. Can I have approval of the minutes for the August 15th, 2023?
So moved.
Moved by Pat Lombardi,
Second.
second by Trish. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Oh, abstain, sorry. Phil Willoughby abstains. I keep forgetting he's
No.
up there.
No, Bob Finley.
Bob
Bob
Finley.
Finley, what'd I say?
Phil Willoughby.
Oh, gee, many crickets. Bob Finley, 5-0-1.
I'm sure he's been called worse.
Let's hope so, anyway.
So on number 5 is the proclamations from the Seymour Police Officer. Can I have Chief Buccarati please come up with me? The record, Phil Willoughby is in attendance. So we are so proud of our Seymour Police Department. Number one, I just want to put out there, we are so proud of each and every one of them. But when we have officers go above and beyond, our our chief recognizes them, the Board of Police Commissioners recognize them, and I want to make sure they're recognized because it's important to me to let the police department know that we have your backs. When you're, as my dad would say, when you're right, I have your back. But when you're wrong, I will have your back. But we're going to start with the proclamations. It's the town of Seymour, and this one is honoring Officer Brandon Devlin. Whereas Officer Brandon Devlin was awarded the Seymour Police Department Letter of Commendation for his actions on July 12, 2023. Whereas July 12, 2023 at approximately 5 a.m., Officer Devlin, Officer Giuliano, Officer Herrera, and I hope I said that was all right, responded to a suicidal party who was armed with a knife. Officer Devlin, along with other officers, confronted the subject who refused to drop the knife despite repeated commands and began advancing towards Officer Devlin. Officer Devlin, through teamwork and communication, kept the attention of the subject, while Officer Jason Giuliano was able to tactically position himself behind the subject. Whereas, at the right moment, Officer Giuliano moved in and was able to take the subject down to the ground. The subject was disarmed safely by officers on the scene. Officer Giuliano did sustain a cut requiring stitches during the incident. The subject was not harmed and was transported to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Whereas the teamwork, restraint, and tactics demonstrated by Officer Devlin and other officers on scene that morning contributed to a successful outcome and undoubtedly saved the life of an individual who was in crisis. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Amber Dragonis, First Selectwoman of Seymour, join a grateful town in extending our serious appreciation to Officer Brandon Devlin for his service and professionalism to our town as a Seymour police officer. Thank you. Can I have Officer Ismail Herrera? Officer Ismail Herrera was awarded the Seymour Police Department Letter of Commendation for his actions on July 12, 2023. On July 12, 2023, at approximately 5 a.m., Officer Herrera, Officer Giuliano, and Officer Devlin responded to a suicidal party who was armed with a knife. Officer Herrera, along with other officers, confronted the subject who refused to drop the knife despite commands being advanced towards and began advancing towards Officer Herrera. Officer Herrera, through teamwork and communication, kept the attention on the subject, while Officer Jason Giuliano was able to tactfully position himself behind the subject. Whereas at the right moment, Officer Giuliano moved in and was able to take the subject down to the ground. The subject was disarmed safely by officers on scene. Officer Giuliano did sustain a cut requiring stitches during the incident. The subject was not harmed and was transported to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Whereas the teamwork, restraint, and tactics demonstrated by Officer Herrera and the other officers on scene that morning contributed to a successful outcome and undoubtedly saved the life of an individual who was in crisis. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Amber Dragonis, First Selectwoman of Seymour, join a grateful town in extending our sincerest appreciation to Officer Ismail Herrera for his service and professionalism to our town as a Seymour police officer. Thank you. Jason Giuliano. Officer Jason Giuliano. Whereas Officer Jason Giuliano was awarded the Seymour Police Department Distinguished Service Medal for his actions on July 12, 2023. Whereas on July 12, 2023 at approximately 5 o'clock a.m., Officer Giuliano, Officer Devlin, and Officer Herrera responded to a suicidal party who was armed with a knife. These three officers confronted the subject who refused to drop the knife despite repeated commands and began advancing towards these three officers. Officer Herrera and Devlin, through teamwork and communication, kept the attention of the subject, while Officer Jason Giuliano was able to tactically position himself behind the subject. Whereas at the right moment, Officer Giuliano moved in and was able to take the subject down to the ground. The subject was disarmed safely by the three officers on scene. Officer Giuliano did sustain a cut requiring stitches during the incident. The subject was not harmed and was transported to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Whereas the teamwork, restraints, and tactics demonstrated by Officer Giuliano and the officers on scene that morning contributed to a successful outcome and undoubtedly saved the life of the individual who was in crisis. Now therefore be resolved that I, Amber Dragonis, First Selectwoman of Seymour, join a grateful town in extending our sincerest appreciation to to Officer Jason Uliano for his services and professionalism to our town as a Seymour police officer. Thank you, Officer. Do any board members wish to comment?
Can we get a picture? Group picture, maybe?
Yes, we could.
Can we give a standing ovation?
Yes, you could.
Thank you very much.
Yes, does the Board of Commissioners want to come up as well in the picture? One big happy family. I'm the short one, so I have to go right here. Little one.
I'll text it to you.
Oh, sorry. One, two, and three. 1, 2, and 3.
Good. Can I get the board members? You aren't in it, Trish.
I didn't think we were supposed to be. I was actually ducking behind our revered officers.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
I just want to say thank you for your service that evening, as well as every day that you go to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, as I'm reading the proclamations, just one quick thing, as I'm reading the proclamations, I just as a resident, thank you, but being a wife sitting at home, my heart goes out to you, and I thank you for letting them do what they have to do. So thank you.
And I don't know how you withstand the tragedies that you have to face. I often think when I see an officer pull over someone in the nighttime, what you must fear that you're facing, and you don't know what you're facing. I'm proud how brave you folks are. Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, is that it? Bob, did you have anything to say?
You know, very much appreciated, you know, we just want to know that the police officers know that, you know, we're behind them 100%, and we really appreciate the family and their families as well, who have to, you know, stand beside them throughout all this too, so we really appreciate everyone.
Yes. Thank you, and please be safe out there. Discussion of the ARC project by Rabbi, I am going to kill your last name. Hech, thank you. Director of the Chabad Jewish Center in Oxford, Connecticut. Rabbi? Thank you. Huh.
Color. Thank you.
I'll go through it together, so you can follow along as well.
Thank you.
There is the arc as well. And the yellow ones.
Oh, the yellow arcs, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you. Donation? Donation.
Yeah. So, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Rabbi Shmaya Hecht from the Chabad Jewish Center of Oxford. We are serving the surrounding towns, not just Oxford, but we are centered in Oxford, but we'll be serving Seymour as well. And it's a privilege to be here tonight, and thank you, Chris Lesselman, for bringing me here. So, the ARC project, the ARC initiative, is the ARC is an acronym for Acts of Random Kindness. And as you see, the idea is generating kindness in our community. Now, you may ask, how do these little boats generate kindness in the community? So, a little explanation. These boats, you could open up and follow along, read along, how explain it. These little arcs, kind of like a Noah's Ark, is a little charity box. Now, this charity box is a little different than any charity box that you may have come across in your life. The idea is not as much for the recipient, but for the giver. What do I mean by that? The idea of the Ark is that our goal is that every person in the town should have an Ark. What do they do with the Ark? The Ark, they leave it at home, on their kitchen counters, windowsill, on their desk in their office, wherever it may be, and it serves as a reminder every day to take your little change that you have and place it in your Ark, but not for the rainy day fund, but for somebody else, somebody or something else which deserving, which made someone, a friend, which may be going through a rough time, the homeless person you pass every day to work, an organization which is close to your heart, that I'm constantly thinking every single day that I place a coin in this little Ark. I'm thinking about somebody else, and I'm doing an action, not just a thought, but I tie it to a physical action that I'm doing to to do something for somebody else. And the idea is, as I spoke about with the first levelman, that it takes some time to create a habit. And the idea is to create a habit of giving, a habit of thinking about others and doing something for somebody else. And that's the idea of the Ark project. And obviously when it's full, that individual can pass it along to whomever they wish, somebody that needs something, someone, something deserving, an organization, an individual, somebody else, whoever it may be. That's up to whoever the owner of the Ark is to decide. And the idea is to get people to think and change their mindset, to think about others more often, do things, and not just think about it, but to actually do things for others more often. And if we can affect not just one individual, but an entire town to think this way, and not just to think this way, but to do this way, we will see kinder communities and kinder neighborhoods together. And I think this is something that can have a tremendous impact for the town and for the residents here. And you can read through the little booklet that I gave you. So how do we go about this? So there's two kind of avenues. Or if there's any questions before I continue. Any questions? Anybody?
No.
Not yet.
Okay. So how do we go about this? So there's two avenues which we are thinking of. Again, this is something which Chabad centers across the world actually have taken into their communities and have seen tremendous impact. Locally, Chabad of Hamden has just done it recently, and they have seen tremendous wonderful impact on the community. So there's two ways that we are thinking of that we can go about this. One is through local businesses. Get business owners to join the Kindness Coalition, which is business owners coming together and partnering in this initiative, in this project, and they would receive a branded Ark. I have one right here. It's a Liberty Bank out in Hamden, was a partner. Has their logo on it, has a little message of what the Ark is, and they have it in their bank, and they give it to every client that comes in. They receive an Ark along with whatever they have to do that day at the bank, and they will take it home, and do what they're supposed to do with it. That is one way of reaching out to residents. And another option, another avenue we're thinking of is the schools. That every child in the school district shall receive an Ark, and there's a couple different ways that we can go about that. It can be that the child takes it home, and then at home they fill out, not every child has to change, but at home there's maybe spirit change. They fill it out, they get their whole family involved, and then the family can decide where they give it, or it could be a kind of more of a school month, that they have a kindness month that for 30 days the children will fill it up and then they bring it back, and the class together can decide where they want to donate the funds to. There could be a kindness wall up in the school where, not if every child doesn't have the change, but that during this month, the teacher can write a note, or the parents can write a note of something that they have done during the day, the child has done, and that note and with the name of the child and the action can be put up on the wall, and grow a kindness tree. There can be an essay contest at the end of the 30 days, at the end of the month, on what impact this daily act of kindness has had on the child. And you can do some awards afterwards. There are many different ways that this can be rolled out, and it's something which is really exciting. And presenting it here to the town, and as I mentioned with the first select woman, the town themselves can kind of be like one of the first businesses that are part of the coalition, the Kindness Coalition. If they like to have it in the town centers, that they can have an arc to be able to have people that come in have a box of arcs, so to say, that people can receive coming in. That's kind of the rundown. There is a video which I would love to be able to present to you. It can be scanned on this little QR code on the third page. I don't know if you will be able to do it at home or later, but it's a beautiful video of the recap of the campaign that happened in Hamden. To take a look at that as well. It's very impactful, and that's the art project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Any
much.
questions?
No,
Comments?
I love it.
Thank you so much. As Rabbi and I had discussed, I said, maybe for the kids, putting in the classroom and just writing, hey, I helped, Tommy pick up his books, or, pick a mess I didn't make, or, I was nice. So I think that's how it would work in the schools as well. And I sort of like this because I remember, and I'm probably aging myself when I said this, trick-or-treating, we would have the little UNICEF boxes, and we would have to send them in to somebody. But with this, we are actually giving it to someone whom we feel needs it, and that's why I kind of like this.
It's awesome.
I like that it creates a daily habit instead of just, thinking about it at one time a year. So thank you.
30 days to make a habit. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on is the discussion and take possible action regarding the process of abandoning a portion of Ray Street. And here we have Jesse Jepson. To explain what they would like to do. If you're unsure where Ray Street is, if you know where Zeppo's optometrist is, it's the street that's actually in back of them, and yeah, exactly. And the street doesn't fully go all the way down. It doesn't connect. It just ends.
Thank you, sir.
These are my paper eyewear. Dr. Zeppos is right there, so yes.
Oh, Dr. Zeppos.
Dr. Zeppos is right there, so yes, see the way.
Sir.
Do that too. I bought this on last year for my glasses. I have one from Dr. Zeppos.
Oh, they click right.
Hi, good evening. For the record, my name is Jesse Judson. I'm a licensed land surveyor with the office of 52 Main Street in Seymour, Connecticut. And I'm here tonight representing Mr. George Zeppos. Mr. Zeppos is the owner of number 25 New Haven Road and number 6 Ray Street. And we're requesting that the town consider abandonment and conveying a portion of Ray Street that's unused to him. So again, Mr. Zeppos is the owner of number 25 New Haven Road. That's where Seymour Optometry Center is, his office. This building is served by a driveway that comes off of Route 67 that goes through to Ray Street. Number 6 Ray Street is currently vacant. In the past, it was the home, I believe, of a pediatric office. And that's served off the end of Ray Street to a parking area. The existing right-of-way for Ray Street is approximately 235 feet long. Starts at Garden Street and is westerly about 235 feet. Again, this right-of-way ends basically essentially in the middle of 6 Ray Street. It does not continue through to New Haven Road. So there's no potential for ever extending it out to Route 67, and there's really no need for that ever to, the state would probably frown upon that. So the easterly 130 feet of Ray Street is improved. That's this dark gray area. The road presently just comes down and basically just ends into the driveway that flows into 6 Ray Street. The westerly 100 feet, 105 feet more or less, This unimproved consists of a wooded area, and a lawn area that's maintained by Mr. Zeppos. There is, other than there's an existing utility pole and a few overhead wires, and there is an existing sewer line that starts in the property that runs out to Garden Street. The sewer line only serves mainly just 6 Ray Street and 25 New Haven Road. Again, so what we're asking the town would be to abandon this westerly 150-foot portion of Ray Street, abandon it and convey it to Mr. Zeppos. Most of this is the unimproved paper street. Once abandoned, Mr. Zeppos abandoned and conveyed to him, he could combine this property with 25 New Haven Road and 6 Ray Street, form one larger contiguous property that would much more potential for development. Presently, 25 New Haven Road is only about a quarter-acre parcel. Commercial zoning in this area requires a 1-acre lot, and with the setbacks, like 50 feet from any street property line, it basically eliminates the potential for any expansion or further development of this property. 6 Ray Street is very similar with the setbacks and zoning regulations. Expansion is very difficult, or nearly impossible. But with the abandonment and expansion of this, it substantially increases the commercial development of the property. Mr. Zeppos is running out of space at his current office and is seeking more space. So with this property, he could perhaps add on to his building, or one scenario was perhaps building a new 4,000 square foot building in the back, so that could provide some commercial development in the town. I understand this is sort of an unusual request, or not an everyday request, so at this point, we're asking if the board would consider this abandonment, and if so, what steps the town need to take, and what steps we need to take on our part, whether that's referrals from other commissions, or how we should proceed.
Attorney Rotula?
Jesse, if this board has interest in perhaps pursuing this, the first matter would be for this board to refer it to the Planning and Zoning Commission for an 824 review. That would be the action that would be appropriate for them to take tonight if they're so interested. And then if between the time it appears on their agenda and tonight's meeting, we'll, as the Office of Town Council, we'll be in touch with you. We'll be looking for legal descriptions and perhaps some other information. If you have title, if you have back title to Lot 6 and Lot 25, those are the sorts of things. I imagine you do because you've done a survey map. So
yes, those two parts.
So that would save the town some money. If you can do that, that would be appreciated. And then this board would wait for an 824 report to come back from the Planning and Zoning Commission before taking further action. But it could, at an appropriate time, vote to abandon the paper street using the legal description, and could vote to convey the property to Mr. Zeppos owns both sides of the street.
Yes, he does, and the portion that we were asking to abandon only has frontage on this property, so it wouldn't involve the other properties.
That would be the important thing, because it gets tricky
Yes.
if you have different property owners and one is asking for the abandonment to enhance his parcel. When it usually happens is one property owner gets half and the other property owner gets the other half. Here, if he owns both sides, that removes an impediment.
And if it was abandoned, it would be immediately merged with the other properties to form one contiguous parcel.
Is that his intention to merge?
Any questions?
If I may. Jesse, the remaining portion of Ray Street that would still be retained by the town, is that section of the street used by either 42 Ray Street or 58 Ray Street, or 56 Ray Street?
So there are no driveways off of that portion. Really, that portion of Ray Street is used as parking area. People park on both sides of that road. There's no driveways to either property. Presently there is no turnaround at the end of Ray Street. Most of the traffic on Ray Street is for, either like we go into Mr. Zeppos' business. People either turn around in his driveway or cut through his driveway out to New Haven Road.
So the existing Ray Street is plowed by the town,
Yes.
and where does the snow end up being deposited?
Presently, they come down Ray Street and they push the snow over to right next to this telephone pole behind Mr. Zeppos' building.
So if the town abandons the section of Ray Street that you're proposing, the retained portion, the snow would probably go,
We're proposing the snow would go in the exact same spot. On my draft plan here, one of the things I'm showing is at the end, over a 30-foot end of Spray Street that's being abandoned, is a utility snow plowing and turnaround easement, just so the town can still utilize that portion of the property we always have, replacing snow.
has there been any discussion with town officials as to why the town would want to retain that remaining portion of Ray Street?
No formal discussion.
What about the neighbors?
Have not.
Okay. Those are just questions that I would like to see answered. I'm not sure why the town should retain all of Ray Street if this board is in agreement that the portion that's being proposed should be abandoned. Why should the town retain the existing section, the other section of Ray Street?
So you're suggesting just abandon, you just want to know, just in case, maybe just abandon all of Ray Street?
I think it's a consideration. I'm not sure that I'm in favor of that, but if neither adjoining property owner is using it, and it's used for parking, perhaps overflow for Dr. Zeppos or people on Garden Street, I don't know.
It's really the parking for 56 Garden Street, the dentist office in here. And I believe this might be
Okay.
a two-family house on this property, and they park on both sides of the road there.
And I'm personally familiar with this particular neighborhood, and I haven't studied that map with any great care, but you don't want to create rear lots without street access.
I'm not talking about rear lots. There would be abandonment to the two adjoining property owners. And then they could have parking in that area.
Yeah, and they both do have frontage on Garden Street.
They do. That's what I'm getting
Yeah, so they
Yes.
both have frontage on Garden Street, and actually access their driveways are from.
So each property owner would obtain title to half of the roadway and have sufficient area to park for themselves. And the town would be relieved of liability and responsibility for maintaining that section of Ray Street, which the townspeople don't need to use anymore. It's just a consideration that I think should be discussed with Public Works engineering.
The portion, the remaining portion of Ray Street, that couldn't be used as another entrance going into the property and just be one long driveway, and then we would be relieved of the ownership of a small unused section. And, because there's only one entrance and exit to the property proposed, right?
Yes, in the future, I mean, in this particular concept plan, it would still utilize the entrance on New Haven Road and the entrance from Ray Street. Now, if all of Ray Street was abandoned, I guess this gets a little tricky, but the 6 Ray Street and 25 New Haven Road, technically they still have a right to pass over that abandoned road. So there would still be, even though half of the Ray Street, each half would go to the adjoining parcel owner, there would still be a right to pass those, their necessity, I guess, to them. I know they likely wouldn't need to, but it's sort of,
Would there be a need for more than one entrance to the property? Would that remain, because there has to be two ways in, right?
there doesn't only need to be one.
Oh, there only has to be one, even when you make it larger?
Yeah, if we merge it into one, we still only need one.
Okey-doke.
Bob?
So do they already have a right of way through, Zeppo's driveway? Is that what?
No, there's no formal right of way through the Zeppos property from Ray Street.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be interested to hear what planning and zoning has to say, because they have to get involved. But, that said, I would think as long as they're in agreement, I would support it, because I think commercially it would be more attractive later, because, at some point, Dr. Zeppos will want to retire. So I think it will make it more attractive at that point.
If I may add something about what Attorney Stanek brought up about abandoning the entire Ray Street, is you have the dentist building there that serves that street, and then you have the homeowner, and they will periodically park on the road because the Garden Street building does not have a lot of parking, and they'll have about 2 spots there. And then the homeowner there, he has a driveway, but sometimes I'll see him park on that street. But if you were to abandon it, who would you be abandoning it to? Who would be plowing that? I can't speak for people, but I don't think the homeowner would want to be plowing Ray Street as it is, and I don't think the building owner, Garden Street, would want to be plowing that portion of Ray Street. So now you're going to have half of Ray Street, which say if you're going to be acquired by me, I would plow that, but now you're going to have the other half. So you're going to, you may get into like a little bit of trouble with snow.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
you're making a good point.
Because I live here more than home. I'm here 12 hours a day, so I see the dynamics that happen. But the reason why Jesse brought up just cutting it off straight is because now that's a straight line, and the Ray Street property cuts my driveway about halfway through, so it doesn't go all the way up. So it would be like a little jig. You guys see you see the pictures here? It's not an angle.
And-
Yeah, it doesn't go all the way through.
Right.
Right.
I mean, sure, I would love all the Ray Street, who wouldn't like it, but I just don't think it makes sense from the other neighbors. Like, again, I cannot speak for them, but what would they be gaining? Really nothing. They'd be gaining more bills and plowing. I just don't feel they would want that, but then again, I cannot speak for anybody else.
and there's no argument with Public Works it sounds, with Public Works
They plow
plowing
it
it
now.
the same way it is today,
Yeah,
so.
and what Public Works does is they do 2 sweeps down, and thankfully the last year or so has been fine. Last year was one or two storms tops, but they just come down and push it straight in, right behind my property. Like, it's still Ray Street, but it's right behind it. Right. And again, they can continue to do that in the future. Just push it through, because it's only going, another 20 feet? If they don't go all the way to the end of Ray Street and go down right where the telephone pole is, about 15 feet in, anybody who's in Public Works knows that. And if that's a problem, Attorney Stanek, the other thing they can do is, my driveway's plowed pretty early, they can cut through my driveway, put their plow down at the end where Ray Street comes, and then loop around and push it out the garden, instead if there's ever an issue like that. Because my driveway's wide enough for it to come from that end, and just leave the property that I acquired alone, so the guy that plows my driveway can plow the Ray Street that I would be acquired. Am I making sense?
Yep.
So just approaching it from a different angle instead of coming this way, if you're concerned where they're going to put this 50-foot snow.
Shh. 50 feet of snow.
No, 50 lineal.
Oh,
1 inch snow.
thank you.
If I may, thank you for your analysis, Dr. Zepos. My point was that there be full consideration given by the town in what we're doing. If that's retained section, the easterly section of Ray Street was retained or abandoned, then each adjoining property owner will own half of it. You make some good points. All I was doing is raising
Oh,
the
and I
issues to be
understand.
discussed as to whether or not the town wants to retain ownership
I think the point is
of the
valid.
remaining portion of the roadway. But I think what you're proposing makes sense with regard to your property as well as future economic
So
development for
I
the
want to
town.
ask a question while you're thinking. So say you abandon Ray Street, that would go to the Garden Street, my neighbor, another neighbor,
Yes,
correct? Who would split
yes.
in half. And you'd have to ask them. I've not had a conversation with them.
I don't think I would do that, but. I mean, we can ask, but I don't think that'd be a wise
I don't
move
think
on
it's
the
a benefit
town's
to those
behalf.
neighbors.
Yeah. There is no benefit, that's the thing, they don't see it, why would they do that?
No benefit.
Would you want to acquire the road in front of your driveway, just so you can say, that's mine, then you're going to have to be responsible for
No.
The benefit, there would be a benefit to the town. The town would not have to maintain that section of road.
because it's
If
a
it's-
wide
On the
road.
long-term basis, standpoint, we really want that, so.
Ray Street is a very wide road. It's quite wide.
Yep.
And there's a lot of driveway there to shovel. It's not a 8-foot wide road, wider than most roads in town.
I agree with you, Mr. Stanek. On the other hand, though, I wouldn't want to make a decision to benefit one property owner to the detriment of two
others.
Oh, I
others.
understand that.
That's all, but
that's
it's a valid
That's a
consideration.
consideration. But my point is that all aspects of the abandonment be considered before we give away town area.
I think again, for me, I think the benefit is looking toward, I'm a big planner, I like to look at the future, and I think that there's a benefit much later on, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, you're kind of not much room for expansion.
I mean, and considering that that road isn't really used.
Not used by anybody.
Right.
But for parking.
But for parking. So, Go ahead.
Throw in, if that portion of Ray Street remains town of Seymour, future development down the road, who knows what could potentially go there.
Exactly.
It provides 2 access ways, and, delivery trucks or other vehicles could then go through Ray, coming up New Haven Road and exit Ray Street, so I guess it is a benefit to commercial development of this property in the future, having Ray Street be.
I would
Makes
leave
sense.
it open because UPS trucks come in that way, large box trucks. People that are uncomfortable pulling out to 67, including myself, if you try to leave my office early and take a left, it's really impossible. I have to go around the back way. That's an entrance exit used by many. And a lot of cut throughs, I get the occasional cut through. Nobody likes those, you can't do that with them.
I'd like to make a motion.
yes,
I'd like to make a motion to send to planning and zoning for an 824 review, the proposal of Ray Street, of abandoning and turning over to Mr. Zeppo, and then after that, we could have further consideration.
second. Motion by
I
Phil,
second it.
second by Trish. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go
Nice
into
work.
item number 8, I would just like to take a moment. We have Mr. Ed Henry. He is the new Director of Security for our schools. He replaced Mr. Kearns. Mr. Henry, could you stand up? Even though Mr. Henry is a Board of Education employee, as a Director of Security, he'll be working hand in hand with our police department, our fire department, and our emergency response members, which include everybody I just mentioned. We look forward to working with you, Mr. Henry. On the upcoming events, the Trick or Trunk that we have coming up, the Santa Claus fireworks show that's happening at the high school. I just want everybody to put a name with a face so that everybody knew who he was.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Everybody in town, including the district, the superintendent's office, couldn't have made me feel more welcome here as a new employee, so I'm just getting my feet wet. Mr. Kearns had a lot of projects going on and a lot of responsibilities, so that's what we're working on now.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
Rich did have a lot of projects going on. Okay. Number 8, thank you. Number 8, discussion, take possible action regarding the fiscal year 2022 Homeland Security Grant Program, the Department of Emergency Management, Homeland Security. Region 2, MOAs and resolutions. In your packet is the actual grant that our Emergency Management Director, Tom Amy, has to fill out. So basically, this grant allows him to get money in case there's emergencies happening, even for FEMA, allows us to get grant money for any races that we have, any big events that we have, anything over 100 people, if we have to file for something, to get new equipment. this grant allows us to do it. And we go through this every year. Trish, can you read the resolution?
Resolved that the Board of Select Persons may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate, and further resolved that Anne Marie Dragonis, as first Select Woman of Town of Seymour, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Board of Select Persons and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Pat. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Phil. Discussion?
If I may, does this grant authorize the use of funds for personnel if we have to pay overtime or extended work hours?
If there is an
An
emergency?
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And, just one thing, we do have an emergency management director, and that
Yes.
emergency management director is, the EOC is only opened when, the first select person deems that there is an emergency, such as a hurricane, power outages, and such like that. But yes,
Thank you.
it would even cover for public works. Got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. First Select Woman's report. Everybody did that. The month of August, we're filled with some great family community events. A big thank you to Lori Nispoli from Love Mom XOXO, whose foundation organized and successfully held the first ever Fill the Backpack townwide scavenger hunt. There was approximately 92 individuals that made up the teams. The team members had to solve riddles, they had to take pictures, some with officers, some with firefighters, and they were given out items needed for their schoolwork. I want to thank Lori, as well as the police department, Officer Tomaselli that was out there, and the C2 Fire Department for filling the dunk tank, which I spent the majority of the afternoon in. Yeah, the water park. Black and blues for it. And thank those that came down to help support. I know Select Woman Baker, you were there with your grandkids. I know I saw Kristen Bruno there. So it was a fun event. And after that, we did our first ever movie night. We showed.
I had to leave. My grandchildren were not behaving.
We showed. I forgot. We showed a kids movie. So
Was it Moana?
Well, it was Moana. That was it with the rock. So we showed Moana. So that was good. Everybody had fun, and we're gonna look forward to doing more of those family movie nights. Seymour co-sponsored with the City of Ansonia Rock the Valley event. We had a few bands from Seymour perform in the ceremony. It was a great 70s to 80s rock band tribute. Great event, was well attended, and we also had our third annual firework show. They were amazing. I saw them in Ansonia. So, I know I saw you there, Selectman Finley was there with his family, so it was great. Citizens Engine Company 2 held their annual lobster steak night dinner fundraiser. The firehouse was packed. I think they actually had to put more tables out and chairs, right?
We did.
Yeah. The food was delicious, and there was a lot of food. If anyone left hungry at that event, it was their own fault. Great job by everyone, the auxiliary, fire, police, and of course the juniors who were cleaning the tables. As you know, the Seymour Hurricanes were here. They won their National DCA Championship for a second year in a row, and we are very proud of them, and that they come from Seymour. The final event that was held was our Cultural and Arts Committee. This committee every year sets up at Great Hill Hose. They play their music, and I think they didn't have to cancel any one of their bands because they had great nights every night. On August 21st, we held our first community resident assistant meeting. The meeting was to inform residents in the town about the communities assistance that we have, including team, with their heating assistance for not oil, but electricity and gas, and even wood. The heating assistant program covers whatever your main heating assistant, whatever it is, if it's oil, even pellets, they cover. This program starts September 1st, so make sure you call team there. We also had Officer Oskowski was there going over the community. Chief Buccarati was there. We had Tara from the assessor's office, and they were going over disability for homeowners, as well as our community service aide who was going over the rental rebate. September is just the start of the busy season in town. We have the Pumpkin Festival coming up the 17th at French Memorial Park. Tickled Pink is hosting a Pink Fest on September 16th. And September 30th, we'll be doing a Touch a Truck at the Community Center. And then after that, we'll be showing a movie on the outside. I can't tell you what it is. On the outside. Big screen movie. We'll be putting all our events on the town website, as well as advertising them on the town's Facebook to keep everyone informed as to what is going on in town. Building facility, we put together the Wildcat Sports Complex Committee to start raising money and seeking donations. This board together put that committee together. This committee has done so much in a short period of time. A new sound system was donated and went in record time, so we're able to hear the middle school and high school graduations for those that attended the graduation. You're able to hear that. There are bathrooms coming in, permanent bathrooms, no more porta potties will be up at the field to an anonymous donor. We appreciate that. The football field will have new LED lights installed. We are not sure if this will be put in before the first game, but the reduce of the porta potties will reduce costs to schools for having those, as well as the new lights will help cut down on the electric bill, as well as light pollution. The tennis courts are being filled and repainted, and new nets are being donated. We are looking to place the fabric along the fence, and the next project would be to have the baseball field completed up there. This way we have all our teams at home, instead of having them to go elsewhere. This way, if whatever the season is, if a parent has a daughter playing softball and a son playing baseball, they're not going halfway across town trying to see both games, and it will save money on transportation for the buses. The kids won't have to leave school early. They won't have to catch a bus to go to practice or to games. It'll be nice to have everyone under one roof. The pool is our next big project that the town is working on with the high school. Working together. Right? Any questions on that so far? No? Good. Okay. The community center, we received a little over $500,000 from last year in grant money for a new roof and elevator. We put money aside out of the ARPA money, and we'll be applying for another grant, working on what I call phase one of the building. In all, we're looking at approximately a little over $1 million to do the new roof and the elevator at the community center. We will start working on the newer section of the third floor to make it usable. We did test that for asbestos. There is no asbestos in that side, so we want to start making that usable for outside people, as well as, to use it for town offices if need be, for people to hold meetings in or whatever. We'll test the older side of the section, the building nest. If there is asbestos over there, we will either look to do abatement or an encapsulation of that. But right now, we want to work on the third and get the third ready to be used, to rent that out. New businesses in Seymour. We celebrated Allen's Plumbing being in business for over 50 years. John Jr. and his sister Melissa, third generation, running the business. And there are 8 little ones being groomed to continue that family tradition. Thai Dish, they're under new management, and they opened up September 1st. Agave Restaurant, we did their grand opening this morning. They're in the old Tony's Diner. There's new assembly area on Botsford Road. This was previously the Jehovah Witness building. I believe this will be a mandir, which is a Hindu place of worship, and I hope to God I didn't say that wrong. A Smoke Mart / convenience store type store will be opening next to Boland's Cafe. That plaza is now completely filled. A luxury cleaning company located at 252 Bank Street. That's across from the Claridus Plaza. The building where the Pretty Little Witch used to be. That is a home and business cleaning company. There is a new deli opening in the AutoZone Plaza where the bank used to be. I think that's the most thing I'm excited about, because they'll have soup and salads. Work has begun again on the old Trestle Tavern. The owner of that property is converting it into a 2-family home. And then I have a cybersecurity update if you're all interested. If not, I'll just skip over it.
I'm interested.
I know you would be. The town has received the $182,035.67 in our bank account that was frozen. The case is closed by the police department, but it is still active in the court system. So I don't know if anything that was seized down there, we will be able to get that back, or what happens with that. I'm just happy we got the $182,035.67 back. So thank you, Seymour Police Department, yet again. Okay. Wanted to address some concerns. We will start with some residents' concerns. There was a lot of talk on Facebook about blasting at the Haynes site on Derby Avenue. The P&Z board approved this site blasting in 2001, as I mentioned before at this board. The talk has now turned to the road. The town is trying to put in, or would like to put in, connecting 67 to Route 42. The 6742 connector, the town wants to put it in to help eliminate some of the traffic that is downtown, because nothing gets you worked up more than sitting in traffic trying to get from one side of town to the other side of town. Will Haynes build once this road is in? They possibly could. Does the town have any say? They're going to have to go through planning and zoning, just like they did before. Are they going to blast and displace the animals? We don't know, because we don't know where exactly they're going to build. Remember that 200 and some odd acres is in Seymour and in Beacon Falls. So where they're going to start, nobody knows. Where they're going to blast, no one knows until permits, applications have all been sent in, site plans have been sent in. So I know there's a lot of questions on Facebook about that, but we don't know what's going to happen until something is sent in. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that. And then in the last meeting, under public comment, a resident asked about the special projects that were listed in the budget, and some people were wondering what these special projects were. This is a position, not projects. If the board remembers last year, we agreed to move Rory out of the chief of staff's position and into a chief administration officer's position. This was due in part of our strategic plan in moving the town forward, as well as our succession plan for whomever sits in this seat. There's a succession plan, and there's somebody there continuing the projects. Rory was the chief of staff, and as you know, the chief of staff administrative assistant is an appointed position by the first select person, as stated per our charter. By making the chief administrator officer a contractual position, they will not only oversee and ensure all the projects are continued without interruption, but they also oversee the professional staff. This board voted unanimously on this position. At the March 21st, 2023 meeting, when both Rory and I presented the budget to this board, the board had no questions in regard to this. Rory and Chris explained to the board that this position was needed. HR was not only serving the town hall employees and the police department, but they are now in charge of boarding and HR issues at the Board of Ed. The chief administrative officer was also getting bogged down with the American Rescue Plan projects. Remember when we had the ARP money come in, we're looking at all these projects, and he was handling that. This board again stated that made sense. The special projects coordinator was like an administrative assistant, but also helped with the projects. We did have someone in this position before, that was Steve Perry, but just under a different title. This board agreed with the chief administrative officer and the human resource director. This person was explained at the Board of Finance, at my budget presentation, and at every meeting after that budget meeting. Right? Okay. To address the residents' comment in regards to the issue of moving around funds and sacrificing positions to seemingly fund a larger payroll for a single position. As this board remembers, we discussed this position, and the professional staff came up with the idea that since Public Works will be hiring an administrative assistant, which my office was previously responsible for answering all the customer service calls for Public Works, doing their POs and their requisition. The Public Works Department is forfeiting a labor position for an admin's position that will now be responsible for answering all those calls. In addition, the answering the calls for Public Works, the Special Projects Coordinator, also provides administrative support for the HR and the CAO. For now, we'll handle it in-house until we can fill the position whenever that may be. Is there any questions on the CAO position? Any questions on the Special Projects Coordinator before I go into the CAO position? Any questions on it?
If I may.
Go ahead.
Again, address the abandonment of the laborers, Public Works. So that's going forward?
Public Works, hold on, I gotta take a sip of that. The Public Works staff and the Public Works board, and Mr. Lombardi's on, Selectman Lombardi's here, decided that they wanted an administrative assistant in lieu of having a laborer. They felt they were good with their laborers and they're good with their drivers. So now they need the administrative assistant. And that is their department, that is their call.
Again, I want to reiterate my position as a member of this board that I don't think eliminating a laborer in Public Works is a good idea. Public Works does a great job. As I said before, there's a great deal of work. There's a lot of other work that could be done to improve the public facilities in town. I think it's not a good idea. I think we have a lot of administrative people within the town. I think we could spread out that additional administrative work somewhere. That's my opinion, my observations as a member of this board. I just want to let that be known.
And I appreciate that, but what happens, Selectman Stanek, is that the calls come into my office, and then Dee has to forward them over to Public Works, or Dee is taking a message. If it's there in their office, that person is going right over to Frank or right over to Sean and getting that message right out.
One control point.
One control point. Here, if Dee is out and someone calls, Dee's phone, then, we're missing the message. If a resident is, our goal is to, as a town, is customer service to our residents. Right? So I can't tell you how many times that phone rings just on trash alone. I honestly cannot. Or when does a transfer station open? Is a transfer station open today? What is the charge for a mattress? Why do I have to pay for a mattress? So by having all the calls go to the Public Works Department, it's easier to have there instead of picking up the cell phone. Oh, there's a tree down. I mean, in emergencies and after hours, it will go right to a voicemail. But if there's a tree down, they're calling the town hall. They're calling Public Works, but it's ringing in town hall. We then have to get a hold of somebody from Public Works to go right there. One call, one center. And again, this was Public Works director as well as their board that came to that and said that. Purchase recs, they have to come to town hall. POs, they have to come to town hall. Checks from the transfer station, they're bringing they're collecting them down there and giving them to Dee, who then has to enter them, who then has to give them to the finance department. Their checks they're entering down there in the system, and they're just sending them to the finance department. I understand what you're saying, but it's how we have to look at this from a business. This is a $65 million business, and we have to look at it how each department is going to function the best way.
Well, and you think the other benefit to you is that
Oh, Bob had to get off.
our assistant operations manager can now be concentrating on those duties, her primary duties, and, it negates her having to answer all those phone calls, et cetera, so on and so forth.
Potholes are getting the calls right there, and they're going out and they're fixing it.
I'll add too, it doesn't need to be permanent. Like right now, we have to work within our budget. So if Public Works finds that they're really missing having that extra laborer and we're not getting the work done the way that we should, it can be put forth to the Board of Finance and hopefully, approved by the people for next budget season or any budget season thereafter as they see fit.
I got two. The losing of the laborer, will that affect in any way the part-time seasonal work people that we get?
Nope, we have not had that laborer's position filled for
Quite a while.
almost a year now.
Right, but the seasonal stuff will stay the same? The
Seasonal
seasonal
stuff,
help stays
yeah,
the same?
seasonal-
And didn't we have the administrator down there at one time and then it came back?
Yeah,
So did we analyze why it came back to the town hall? And
yeah, and we
okay.
can talk about that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So it was down there once before already, so that position is not a new position, that was made. That position was there before, we just named it another position. We just gave it a different name. And then that person left anyway, so, and to address comments regarding the CAO position, because I went back and I read the minutes. Last week's minutes, and I went back and I read the minutes. from June. And last month's minutes, thank you. And the June minutes. So in the minutes, we took the time and we added Phil's motion to the record, right? And we said, you stated that you didn't know who was hired and how you found out about it on Facebook and everything, right? So I went back to the June 20th meeting. June 20th meeting, item number 5. Executive session, discussion and take possible action on the appointment of Chief Administrative Officer. Executive session requested pursuant of CGS Section 1-200, 6A, small a. The motion to go in executive session for the purpose of discussing and taking possible action on the appointment of a Chief Administrative Officer. Executive session requested pursuant to Connecticut General State Statutes. The appointment of an employment of public officer or employee per the Connecticut General Statutes, prohibiting the disclosure of any record or personal search committee which would reveal the identity of an executive level employment candidate. Motion by Trish, second by Bob Finley. We can't discuss what was said in executive session, I understand that, okay? Selectman Stanek, you said that this board didn't have the appointment for the search committee, and then Rich had to do that. We went into an executive session. All right, the motion, we came out of it and we said the motion to correct the agenda number 5 to read, currently says Chief of Staff, should read Chief Administrative Officer. There was no discussion. We came out of executive session. Motion to authorize the first selectwoman Dragonis to enter in negotiations with one of the candidates put forth by the panel regarding the Chief Administrative Officer position. I didn't think much of it at the last meeting, because I wanted to hear what everybody had to say. And then the whole Facebook thing. And then the crazy stuff on Facebook. And then the stuff that was said in Voices. We came out of that meeting authorizing me to go in forward with the candidate in the panel regarding the Chief Administrative Officer position. Motion by Al, second by Bob. The vote was 4-2. Selectman Stanek and Selectman Willoughby voted no. You voted no because you knew who we were going to hire. You knew who we were going to hire. Me putting it on
I
Facebook.
object to that statement.
Yes.
I object.
Well, you could object, but it's my report and it's my section. You object to it, you didn't know who we were going to hire, is what you guys said. You voted no to it. Then why did you vote no? And I don't want to start an argument about this.
Well,
and I'm
you're
not
just
starting
about,
an
you're about to. I mean.
I'm not gonna start an
all right, so
argument
let's
about
stay
it.
civil.
We are.
Okay.
Right? But what you came at me with.
I didn't come at you.
No, what you wanted to talk about at the meeting last week, we didn't know. You did know.
No. I have absolutely no point in that matter. My point was that the information that came from the Facebook the Wednesday after the regular Tuesday meeting was, I felt, town business being done outside of this format of this meeting. It had nothing else to do, and I'm not going to go over and argue or have a discussion about who knew and who when, who didn't know when, and I'm not going to do that. That ship has sailed, and it's done. My my comment was that I wasn't thrilled that business was done on Facebook without the business being done at this meeting. My name was on that Facebook, and I didn't have a chance to defend myself when I felt that when I read the Facebook on Wednesday morning, which is less than 24 hours after our regular meeting, Wednesday morning, I felt that if I was somebody objective reading that, I could take a few of the items, and I am at a disadvantage because I don't have it in front of me like I did last time, and that my objection was that town business should be done here and not on Facebook. So I understand where you picked up this other part about the reason why I voted no, and there's several reasons why I voted no. And if you want to say it's your prerogative to say, because I voted no means I knew, I object to that too. But I brought it up last meeting because of the Wednesday publication of the previous meeting's Facebook article.
So I would just like to remind the board that this is your report, and we should move forward. We shouldn't engage in a colloquy that's not on the...
Well, I was asked.
Well,
I was asked
just
directly.
let me finish.
All right, go ahead.
We shouldn't engage in a colloquy. I would take that to be like a matter of personal privilege in response to the first selectwoman's report.
Okay.
But let's get back to the agenda.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's all that's all I have on my slide, I believe. Chief Administrative Officer's report.
Just for the record, I want to note that Selectman Finley signed off at 8:01 p.m.
For business.
Okay, so I just wanted to use my time to go over some of the initial things that we had talked about, I had talked about and brought up at the last meeting. I'll start with the simplest one, and then we'll kind of go from there. I did provide some handouts for all of you, and I will kind of work through each of those handouts as I go. First, the Finance Department policies and procedures. Doug, Jay, and myself presented those policies and procedures to the Board of Finance at their meeting on August 29th. While we had reviewed all of the updates with Chairman Zawicki in advance, and he actually weighed in and suggested several changes, the board had asked for a few additional changes to be made. We did all this in executive session, so in this open session, I'm not going to say what any of the recommendations were, but they did ask us to take the information back, put some things together, and bring it back to them for their September meeting. So my expectation is it will be approved by them at that September meeting, and then I will bring it to this board. I'm projecting for October 3rd to discuss in executive session. If you look at the packet that I handed out to you, the top sheet, that is the budget to actuals for fiscal year 23. So now I just want to stress that these are unaudited projections of where we stand financially. I wanted to go over this because we're going to discuss some things later on in the agenda, particularly in executive session, that these numbers will be relevant for you folks. So as it stands now, our expenses are $847,976 under budget. Our revenue is $285,761 also under budget. So our total projected unaudited surplus for fiscal year 23 stands at $562,215. That's certainly a positive thing, and again, I expect those numbers will change. If you look on the sheet that I passed out, you can see the breakdown of the general categories. Obviously, the biggest thing on the expense side is Public Works. Knock on wood, we're blessed with a very light snowstorm, snow season, I should say, so that had a huge impact. General government, a lot of that comes from savings from personnel and staffing, because we had some openings there. Also, we were fortunate enough not to have to use our $90,000 gas reserve. We put money aside for gas.
That's because I don't have a car.
The first lesson was not the car. So, I mean, so little things like that, it all kind of adds up. We got lucky with sanitation. Again, generally that's a number we struggle with. We were $98,000 to the good with that. The revenue side, revenues came in about $242,000 lower than anticipated with tax collection. The first selectman had mentioned the ACH fraud. We accounted for the $193,000 difference that wasn't recovered in fiscal year 23, so that has been taken off our books. And then we have some accruals to the positive. We accrue for different things, different costs. And again, that's a moving number that is not locked in until the audit is completed. And I expect that number may come down a little bit. But as we stand now, again, revenue was $285,000 short. And again, of that, $193,000 of it was replacing the money lost for the ACH fraud. So total surplus $562,215. Next thing that you folks had asked me to analyze was to take a look at our debt funnel. And if everybody can take a look at this sheet. So again, when you talk about debt, generally we're talking about bond principal and interest payments. But again, we've done some creative things over the last 8 or 9 years or so to try to make purchases for the town in the most efficient and effective way possible. Bonding is extremely expensive. So if we can do other things that will keep us from bonding, as an example, using leases, different things like that, private placements, we've tried to do that. So first two columns are our total bond and principal and interest payments, The People's Bank Board of Ed principal and interest, those are for the IT network switches that the town had purchased, or excuse me, the Board of Ed had purchased, and the town had financed for them with the understanding that the Board of Education would be paying for those. I'm not 100% sure what happened while I was gone, but it seems that those payments have reappeared on the town side. So we're in the last year of those payments. You also notice that the JCI project principal, again, there's been a very large increase in those payments. And again, when it was initially set up, the town was paying for its portion, the Board of Education was paying for its portion. Again, somehow the entire portion has now ended up on the town side. So that's why you see that massive increase of close to $600,000 in fiscal year '23.
That was anticipated to show up on town side eventually, wasn't it?
No.
Okay, are we researching how these ended up back on the town side of the books?
My understanding was that there was never a written agreement in place. So when the new Board of Education business manager came in, he felt that if there was no agreement in place, that it should be the town's expenses. So
Really, so going forward, while I am all, okay, I'm just gonna make a comment, I don't mean to interrupt you. I am all for tying together the Board of Education and town, because they're taxpayers.
Right.
The money is coming out of their pockets equally regardless of who's paying
Correct.
for what. However, they're on, it's just a limited budget as they are, so going forward, I want the town to have everything in writing from the Board of Ed.
We are.
yeah, and this is, and I'm trying to,
And everybody else for that matter, not trying to not play friends, but since a handshake within the town doesn't work, I want it in writing and filed.
it's something I've never experienced before in my, I guess, 20-plus years of doing this. The vast majority of the savings of the Johnson Controls project is actually on the Board of Education side. So, again, to your point though, at the end of the day, it's all taxpayer dollars. Taxpayers are paying for it regardless of which budget it's in. But, when this debt model was built, 5 or 6 years ago, when we started making drastic changes to it, it was built to have a descending slope to it.
Yes.
And that would allow us to continue to reinvest in projects that would
Yes.
better the community. If you look in fiscal year '21, total debt service was 2.99, and then it was supposed to continue to go down from there.
Yep.
We're now up to 3.6 million, and that is because of the addition of these two unexpected costs.
Right, so to my point, and a former member and upcoming rejoining member of Strategic Planning Committee, sitting on this board, again, I'm not trying to break ties with anybody in town, because we should be working together and friendly and professional, but on this board, I'm focused on the town side, so I want it in writing, no matter what kind of agreement we're getting going forward.
Yeah, going
So we
forward,
can
that'll
pull
be-
it, and this never happens again, because I saw that debt service back when we did it, and it was not supposed to be this high,
No.
so that we could reinvest those funds. All right,
And again, this throws us off about a year or so, because we'll start to see the negative trend. We'll start back in fiscal '27. And again, some of this too, we did purchase the fire truck, or lease the fire truck, so that had to be taken into account as well. But this pushes us off about a year. So in my estimation, we should probably be looking to do some bonding or taking on additional debt at some point in early 2025. depending on how we structure that debt, whether we do interest-only payments, skip a payment, you can do a lot of different things. You can push and kind of move the payments around. We'll start to see a little bit more flexibility getting out of 27, 28, 29. So that's when I think we're going to have the ability to, again, to start doing some bonding. That's different than doing some other types of short-term borrowing. If we were to borrow for, smaller public works trucks, things like that, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about more big-ticket items. Okay? So again, that's there for everyone's review.
I know, I just want to make one thing. I think what happened with the whole JCI thing is when the Board of Ed found themselves short, we were trying to take on more of theirs so they wouldn't have to lay off teachers.
Well, that would work for the current year, but
Yeah.
it should have been picked back up and rebudgeted.
I know.
next
But he didn't have paperwork for it, so.
year, so.
And while it's our responsibility, we did pay that check for them.
Yep.
So, kind of.
Well, and the switches is another odd one too, because those are specifically listed out what those are. So it's either here or there, but I just wanted to put that information out because it drastically changes the step model. And it puts a little bit more pressure on what we're able to do going forward
Well,
in regards to that.
I'm just gonna speak again, with the Board of Finance taking out monies, and I wanna go back through the budget, or maybe you could take a look, Mr. Miller, in your position now. What else was removed that we had in place for strategic planning, roads, and, anything else that strategic planning had in there, so we didn't have to spike accounts?
I'm working on a list for the meeting for next week.
Very good, because that is going to lower our bond rating. That has the potential to lower our bond rating, not having that plan in place with our budgeted funds.
Yeah, I mean, if they ask for progressing along with the plan, it could have an impact to it.
Right, and that will have, and then the lowered bond rating will have an impact on our interest rate when we do go out for bonding, it will be higher. So I want to make sure everything's in place to keep those rates as low as possible.
Yeah, potentially, yes. I mean, our debt ratio still is strong. A lot of these things would not necessarily be placed into the debt ratio. It would be kept out. And then again, increasing our fund balance, potentially another $300,000 or $400,000 is another positive thing. So, but again, when you go to S&P and you give a presentation, you show them this model and you build a model for a specific reason. The next time you come back, the model's completely blown up. Then you're going to start to ask questions as to why that is and what's changed and things like that. So, that's what we're working on. The next one is the.
Hold on.
When the first payments were not being made by the Board of Education, was anyone approached at the Board of Education at that time?
I wasn't here to say definitively, but it's my understanding, yes, they were.
Yes, they were.
And when was that?
2 years ago?
3 years ago?
And my understanding was there's nothing signed that's not our
Was
responsibility.
there anything in minutes of any meeting?
I don't want to speak for Attorney Paterno, but we were all there when this Johnson Controls project was put into place, and everyone knew the understanding, because, again, a lot of this work is done in schools, and we know we can't actively do work in schools without the Board of Education sign off. So the Board of Education at the time was and when I say Board of Education, I'm talking globally, administration and everyone. Everyone was aware, but some of the players have obviously changed in the last 5 years on the finance side of things, so.
Absolutely.
I think that could be the case, and, when this was all done, to Tricia's point, never in a million years did any of us think we had to put anything like that in writing, because it was just kind of an open understanding that one side benefits the other, particularly with the switches were needed, the Board of Education has absolutely no functionality to borrow that money. They were going to enter into some type of lease agreement, which we were part of it, where the interest rate was astronomical. It was like 9 or 10%. But because the town was able to go out and do a small private placement, we were able to get that interest rate down and save the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. So we did with the understanding that the town would, quote unquote, borrow the money, and the Board of Education would essentially pay us back.
And that was all done administrative?
Yeah. Well, everything was voted. So, because that was actually that one I specifically remember, because that was spearheaded by Rob Dyer.
If everything was voted on, are they in the minutes, and if they're in the minutes, is there anything we can do to go back to them?
I mean, Probably, if, we really dug into it. Again, it's one of those things, it's a right pocket, left pocket, the taxpayers are still paying for it. At the end of the day, I just wanted to bring it up so people understood why the debt model is what it is, because we talked for years about a descending debt model.
They're still paying for it, but it has the potential to affect our bond rate, which is going to affect
Well,
our
no,
rates.
well, yes and no, because again, the debt ratio is not spiking to a point that is outside of the realm. So we're still gonna be in that 7% range, which is very, very good. So it's not gonna be S&P is gonna look at this and say, holy cow, your debt ratio is 10%, what's going on? They may look back if we have the same two people that sat with us, and they may look at it and say, well, hey, you guys have talked about this decline of debt model and the ability to, try to pay for things in cash by keeping your debt service line level. You're not able to do that anymore because it's changed, so we'll have to explain that process. But I guess in theory, you could say the Board of Education budget is lower by, roughly $700,000 because they're not paying for the debt payment. But it was more of
If this comes to bite us in the butt, I want to be prepared to go back to them and say,
who?
the Board of Ed.
It was,
Again, I'm not trying to pick a fight, I'm just trying to present the information.
I know, this
so
just
we can
makes
talk.
me angry, because not the entire all of the players didn't change. So either we're playing stupid, or we just have,
that's not true. All their players did change.
There were players in the
New
finance of the board.
superintendent, and there's a
Two
new business
superintendents and a
manager.
business.
So the players did change. There was a.
all of them?
Yeah, well, yeah, because the finance person, I
It
can't
was
say
Rick
her
Belvin
name.
and Mike Wilson.
Right. And then it went Mike Wilson and Sherry Holmes.
But we have consistent members on the Board of Ed. Did they
Well-
not have any involvement in, we have consistent members on the Board of
I agree.
Education who should be speaking up on what that discussion was.
But I don't know, because they have a finance committee, and I know Stanek is the we would defer to him with the Board of Ed. But I think even their finance committee member may have changed. I know Kristen Harmeling was the chair of it. But according to Sal Bucci, their current business manager, there was no contract in place. When we were starting to do the budget, he says, I have no contract in place, we have no letter in place, nothing is signed, so we're not paying for it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm not going to say anything further at this point, because I think, there's been change in the administrative
Right.
personnel, and that's been a substantial difference in how business was done several years ago. And the Board of Education did not know, and not have a lot of knowledge of what was happening during that previous era.
I do agree with Selectman Stanek on that, because we sat down here with their finance committee, with Dr. Compton, and with Bill Sawicki, and none of that communication was communicated to the Board of Ed's finance committee.
We can move on.
I'm all for repossessing the switches, but that's. All right, so the next piece, this is the Seymour project status report. So this takes all of the current projects that are going on and just lists them out. I use this report with the operations team and with the engineers just to kind of keep track of where things stand. This gives the first selectman the opportunity to weigh in on different things. You'll notice in the red, we've started to identify funding sources to make sure that these projects are moving forward. There are some ARPA things, which when we slide into ARPA, we'll talk about that update, and then ultimately have the section of the budget. You can get an idea of where things go. One of the big things that we had, this was a meeting today, was the underground storage tanks. We have a plan in place to have all of the underground storage tanks addressed. We're going to start with the library. We're going to have that one addressed within the next few weeks. We're also going to pull POs for Citizens Engine Company to have that addressed, but that can't be done until the spring. That'll be done in conjunction with the new generator, so we'll do that together. In the meantime, Tony's doing some work with the auditors just to confirm some funding options. Once we have that, we will be receiving or going out to get quotes on Bungay School, the middle school, and the high school. None of that work can be done until summertime anyway, because we wouldn't want to disturb the class schedule and so on and so forth. But we want to have all of that in place for the end of the school year, so that way we can get that done over the summer. So at that point, we will have all of our underground storage tank issues addressed, and something the town will not have to worry about going forward. And then the final piece, this is the ARPA. Now, if you remember, Rory, we used to have a very colorful spreadsheet. The guy who trained Rory really likes colorful spreadsheets, but we changed that. So what we wanted to do, Tony and I, was create something that, just with a quick glance, somebody can sit down and get a good understanding of all of the projects. So the top in the gray, that are the projects that have all been approved and completed. In the middle, those are the projects that you have approved but are still pending. And then the bottom section, the 6 are the new projects that we will be requesting approval for this evening. As you can see, all of the approvals as they were originally approved put us $75,000 over. Now, I don't want you to be concerned about that, because the projects that have been completed have come $140,000 under what was requested. So we're well ahead.
70, pretty good, yeah.
I don't want to, I just want to keep it here for the time being. Let's finish off the pending projects. And then these new projects, at that point, we can start to shift more money around. But again, this is a report that you guys will see probably every 2 months or so. If you want to see it every month, we can certainly provide it for you every month. But I'll give you an update of how things are moving. One thing of notice in the completed section, if you could look up, you'll notice that there's a very big number for the Board of Education relocation move. The reason was all the projects were listed in there individually, and then they lumped everything into one category. So you'll notice Board of Ed plumbing, Board of Ed electrical, Board of Ed flooring, exit doors, drop ceiling, et cetera, et cetera. That was all actually lumped down into that Board of Education and relocation move. Where we initially budgeted 170, we ended up spending 524, and we have a shortfall of 353. But if you go to those other projects, it actually makes up 354,000. So that whole project came in well within budget to what all of you had approved. So I just want to clarify that, because if you see that big number, that way people kind of understand where that came from. So.
I thought we did too. With
Came in
regard
under budget,
to
yeah.
relocation,
$5,000. Yeah, $1,000, yeah. But I'm just explaining how it would move, just the accounting of it. Because again, people see that negative 353, but again, that merges in a lot of these other.
Okay, so we're going to make it clear that the relocation committee came in under budget.
$5,000. Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's more generous than I thought. I thought it was $86.34.
No, it's about $1,000.
I
Just-
remember
just
the
to pick a
figure, but I
number.
thought it was
Yes,
really
pick a
a
number.
lot.
My bookkeeping was $86.34.
Well, in all,
Not that Selectman Standing was watching the numbers at all, but.
he was, but I'll tell you that it would have cost us a lot more had our facilities department
Yeah, they did a great job.
not,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
did a
the
great
Board
job.
of Ed facilities department not done what they've done.
Yeah, so this, and again, this gives a truer picture of what it actually costs for it.
Why is BOE relocation moving listed twice?
I'm sorry.
Is there a differentiating? You have it under ARC number 38, and then again, for a lesser amount under ARC number 30.
Those are all merged into one. Again, so anything that you see BOE above, so it's number 13, 14, 18, 19, 20,
Right, but what's,
20
even the description
Again, they
project is the same.
it was all broken out into one. We lumped it all into one overall project.
So one may have been the total, you know, the 353,970 was a total.
Was that 7,500, Fred, do
That-
you remember the 7,500, is that for the moving of the?
That was for the
That could
moving.
have been just
We-
moving, like
Yeah.
moving trucks, moving.
Because if you remember correctly, we voted on, as Mr. Stanek brought those to our attention, we voted on every one of those items on an individual basis.
And as far as moving, we had a quote of $44,000, and got no quote of 7,500, but I was concerned whether the mover for 7,500 could do the job adequately. The mover did
No,
a
I
great job.
remember that, just the same description threw me off on the
Yeah,
project.
yeah, I didn't realize, that's one we just missed. So that, again, so this is the report you'll see. Like I said, if you'd like to see it every month, we can certainly provide it every month in the packets. I don't know how often things will change, but it is there. And then, so please take note of that bottom section. These are the new projects that will be requested, but that's a separate agenda item. So with that, Madam First Selectwoman, I will close my report and take any questions any board members may have.
Does anybody have any questions for?
I'm good.
But keep this document out for the next.
I went at them as we went along. I'm good.
Our 50 security cameras.
Well, let's open the next item and then we'll.
Fine.
Okay.
I think that's all. Or Ms. Dillenberg.
Discussion
my job.
and number 11, discussion and possible action regarding new projects and reviewing existing projects.
Thank you, Madam First Selectwoman. So I'd like to draw your attention to the ARP sheet, projects 47, 48, 49, 50, and 51. These are the ones that the professional staff, sorry?
Got 52?
52, sorry. These are the ones the professional staff will be putting forward for your consideration this evening. So project 47 would be the Public Works gasoline tank and pump replacement. 48 would be $400,000 investment into the community center. 49 would be new lights at the football field. 50 would be security cameras in and around buildings and town. 51 will be the camera for the underground utilities, and I'll let the First Selectwoman explain that if anyone has any questions. That's right in her wheelhouse. And then 52 would be new firearms and training for all police. So that totals, you can see that 1.422 million. So does anyone have any specific questions? And Mr. Lombardi, to your questions, I may be very understanding. Please, whatever.
Well, my only, I mean, I don't know what security cameras, I don't know what we're talking about here. I've been trying to get security cameras, okay, installed up at the transfer station.
They're included. They're included. Included.
They're included.
Yes, that I can say.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So
Thank God for miracles.
there'll be a series of cameras installed as well as a new server, which is
Very good.
the $400,000 for the community center. As the First Selectman has mentioned, we currently have a steep grant. We've gone out for a second steep grant. Those two, if we get, would be $1 million. This $400,000 would put us to $1.4 million for what is being referred to as phase one of the community center project, which will allow us to start to, improve the shell of the community center, whether it be the roof, elevators, HVA, heating, so on and so forth. Gasoline tank removal, $430,000. That's a project that we're actually going to bid out piecemeal. We had originally, and you can see that in some of the information, came in at over $540,000. We're at the BAP in engineering. We should be able to do a lot of that in-house. One of the biggest things with the actual fuel tank itself, we're able to sole source that. So instead of going through someone who bid on the project and then putting a huge markup on it, we're just going to go to, I believe the company's called Conball, and just purchase the tank directly, and that will save us a substantial amount of money. So there's a lot of good work done by BAP engineering, Brian, that really they're gonna help the town save a good amount of money. Football field lights, that is in the process now of being put together. Once you folks hopefully approve this tonight, we can go out and get the lights going and have them in, I believe, by early October, is my understanding. It's about a 4 or 5 week turnaround on that. The security cameras, we discussed a little bit. Madam First Selectwoman, if you'd like to discuss your view thing, I just don't know.
And underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
I thought there's something special.
You know, the camera just goes underground and it uses the pipes for like public works. If you
Ah.
have a broken pipe,
Ah.
right?
Yeah, I thought it was more elaborate. I just thought it was more elaborate.
A water main break or something, or like when we had up on, North Benham Road where we had that broken pipe inside that guy's yard.
Yep.
We had to send a UVM, not have somebody else with a camera and spend the money. We now have one here, so we'll work with our public works.
And then finally, $50,000 for firearms. That is $36,000 for the firearms themselves, and the additional amount will be to cover the training because of the type of guns that they are. My understanding is that all of our officers will need to be retrained on them. So the chief wanted to include that in the total cost. And I know the chief is here if anybody has any specific questions on it.
Are these replacement arms, or is this something new that we need?
They are replacement. So if you remember in my strategic plan, we wanted to transition from 45s to 9 millimeters. So these are 9 millimeters. I went over the benefits the last time. It's a cheaper round. We can have more rounds on an officer person. And a couple of things came up recently with Sig Sauer, which is our current firearms manufacturer. They've had 2 unexplained accidental discharges in the last 2 months. So much so that the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association sent out correspondence on it. We've been doing some research. We're not the only department that is transitioning away from 6 hours because a lot of officers have lost confidence in the guns, and quite frankly, we're a little worried because, one discharged in the lobby of the Montville Police Department without the, while it was still in the officer's holster. So, we brought in representatives from Glock. They came down, we got the best price from one company, which includes firearms, holsters, any other material that we need to do it, and with that, we have to qualify each officer on it. Also on these firearms are the red dot sights. That's the same sight that the Bristol officer used to shoot that suspect from far away. We have those, we're going to get those on our guns, but as most departments are doing in Connecticut now. Some of the advantage to it, right out of the box, what are problem shooters who has a problem, qualified right away with the 9 millimeter, first time out of the box. So, I think it's a smart move. We will trade in our old guns for a credit. That's part of the price. They're also available for the individual officers to purchase at a little higher price, so the dealer can make up for it. But in a few months, we hope to be transitioned completely away from the 45s. We can also get credit for the ammunition that we're already have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Chief?
No, I think so.
Do you have any questions at all?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the issue with the football field lights?
They're not efficient anymore. They're becoming hard to replace. So this will switch them all over to LED lights. They're at the end of their useful cycle.
Is there an analysis that over time it will be able to save money to pay for this expenditure?
I don't know if transitioning is going to save the full cost of this, but again, it's getting to the point where they're not able to replace parts. The lights, so we do have some lights out. Also, as the lights get older, they're not as strong, and the angle of the lights has changed. The LEDs would make the area brighter, so there's a lot of overall advantages to this. This is something that we're going to need to do at some point. The other thing we're going to need to look at also is the turf itself. That's coming near the end of its useful life cycle.
So what we want to do is address the lights up front, get those taken care of, and then in the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to be looking at several $100,000 again to replace the carpet. Unfortunately, my understanding is underneath is fine, so we don't have to do any work on the subsurface, it's just going to be the carpet inside.
The lights, sorry.
Thank you.
The lights also, we got a complaint from a resident on South Main Street.
Yeah, the light leads out.
The light bleeds out, and the light from the Seymour High School football field was actually shining in this person's house on South Main Street. So the LEDs won't do that, and it reduces the light pollution.
That's
It reduces the light pollution that these lights, with the LED, they go up and they come down, right? With these with the lights that are currently there, it just lights up, lights up the sky. We could see Oxford's football field from where we live, right? So people in that area will not be able to, you won't get that light, that's light pollution. We won't have that light pollution with these new lights.
So, just for the record, I think it's important. Did these microphones just shut off, or? Oh, my battery died. No, there we go. For the record, though, I think it's worth mentioning so the public understands this does not need anything that's approved by the Board of Selectmen. We don't need a public meeting because they're ARPA funds.
This is ARPA funds.
And not taxpayer funds.
Okay.
We say that a lot, but not everybody listens every time we have a meeting, so just worth mentioning again.
This is true. And we can't use ARPA money to pay down debt either.
You're gonna use our money to pay down debt or to pay pensions. So if there are no other questions, Madam First Selectman, again, motion would be in order to approve ARPA projects 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, and 52 as presented.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Pat Lombardi,
Second.
second by Bill Willoughby. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, it's executive session. Going to an executive session, we invite, go ahead.
Well, item 12A, it's a matter of pending litigation. 12C is also a matter of pending litigation. I would request an executive session of the members of the Board of Selectmen, myself as town council, and the Chief Administrative Officer, Kurt Miller. With respect to 98 Bank Street, the basis for that executive session is for the discussion of the possible sale such that the price would be materially affected if that discussion were held in public at this time.
Okay.
So you're just,
She's trying to write it all down.
I'm trying to figure out what you just said. A and
Why don't we do A and C first? It's pending litigation,
Yeah.
and we have everyone, and then I'll restate the basis for Bank Street.
Okay.
Why don't we do it, because I'm gonna be out there for all three of them, because you guys kicked me out. So I need to have the reason for Bank Street.
I'm about to do that. So.
Do you want to be in here for Bank?
Well, before we do that, let me get what I need. If we can have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the potential sale of 98 Bank Street. The purpose of the executive session is when publicity regarding such possible sale would adversely impact the price of the property until such time as the property proceedings have been terminated or abandoned. And for that, I would request the Board of Selectmen Mr. Miller as the Chief Administrative Officer, and myself.
I need a second.
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 Second by Trish.
Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
I was getting there.
Okay.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 4-0-1. Please note, Selectman Stanek's abstention. Okay. Item number 13, discuss and take possible action regarding McNeese versus Seymour.
Make a motion to approve the summon proposal as recommended by town council.
Can I have a second?
I will second the motion.
Second by Selectman Stanek. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you. No action required on number 14, right? Appointments.
I make a motion to appoint Manpreet Sakdeva to the Events Committee, replacing Preet Singh. It's an appointment for 2 years with an expiration date of September 2025.
Motion by Trish,
Seconded.
second by Mr. Lombardi. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0.
Make a motion to appoint Henry Thompson Smith to the Economic Development Committee. It's an appointment for 3 years with an expiration date of September 2026.
Motion by Trish,
Second.
second by Phil. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Tax refund and abatements. Please look it over.
I will make a motion to accept as presented.
Motion,
Seconded.
motion by Trish, second by Pat. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. There is no correspondences. Public comment? Is there any public comment? Public comment going once, public comment going twice, public comment going 3 times. Okay, select person, public comment. We will start with Mr. Willoughby.
I'm exhausted.
It's a
What's it
marathon
now?
meeting,
What?
2.5 hours.
I think the presentation to the police was a good thing. Appreciate what they do. I thought that was excellent. And, recognition like that is much needed. And the, acts of random kindness with the, ARC, I think is a fantastic idea. I think that we should, look at some of the, possibilities. I think that there will be huge.
I agree.
Thank you.
Selectmen,
What? Huge.
Selectmen, Janik.
Last meeting, I brought up the reconstruction of Holbrook Road, which I think is very well done, as I said. Oxford just repaved Great Hill Road, which is the extension of Holbrook to Route 67. Obviously, the two roads are a connector road between 188 and 67. I'm wondering if there might be consideration of having discussions with the State Department of Transportation to have the state take over that roadway in its entirety, relieving the town of Seymour and the town of Oxford from responsibility for the road. It's new, well built, even the Oxford section. The Oxford section was rebuilt about 14 years ago.
Which road is this?
Holbrook.
You said 67 all the way to the...
188.
188.
You mean 34 to 188? Oh, no.
To the Rotary to 67.
Yeah.
To 67.
Rotary and Seymour.
Just wondering if there's a possibility that the state might take over the roadway. Relieving us from responsibility, maintenance, snow plowing, and the like.
It's a good thought. Doesn't
Doesn't
cost to
hurt to
hurt.
ask.
Doesn't cost to hurt. Doesn't hurt to
I
ask.
know we're very proud of the road now, but if we don't have to maintain it in the future, that would be a big plus.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's a good idea.
At the last meeting, Mrs. Danka asked for a copy of the hiring procedures from HR. I haven't seen them yet.
Oh, we can put those, I have those. I got them right here. We can put those tomorrow.
You're going to forward them electronically? Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes?
Okay.
I'll send them to.
We've talked about, the first selectwoman has indicated twice in the past that we were going to have a report, discussion with the finance department. And I understand the Board of Finance was approving and discussing some protocols with regard to cybersecurity and other matters. I don't think that's within the province of the Board of Finance. Board of Finance has the responsibility of budget making, budget monitoring, and financial long-term planning. As far as general administration, I believe this board has oversight over that area. And therefore, there are going to be protocols with regard to administrative matters. This board should be considering those protocols. That's my opinion. So I would ask that this matter be placed on the agenda in the near future.
So I think the procedures are not just on the cybersecurity. The procedures are on,
Anything that's general administration, I believe, comes here. That's my opinion. If it has to do with budget making, budget monitoring, or budget long-term financial planning, yes, I agree. That's what the board, that applies with the Board of Finance under the charter and the statutes.
My opinion operationally, and I don't make light of what you just said, but we have 3 CPAs. I don't think there's anybody on this board that has more knowledge than those 3. So I think it's more important to let those 3 weigh in and make the updates necessary, and then it would come to this board.
I think we should have input. That's what I'm saying.
You can certainly have input, but again, I think it needs to be settled by those 3 first.
The
Because
CPAs,
it's a very complex thing that we're talking about. Having sat with those 3 and gone through it, it's a lot more than you think.
okay.
So that's all I'm saying.
I
But
don't know
let them-
exactly what the parameters are of what you're discussing. Based upon what was said here in the past, I was anticipating that we were going to have discussion.
You can have all the discussion that you like. I mean, we had a conversation with the Board of Finance in executive session. So we're not going to discuss those things.
I understand.
Right.
And, you know, Attorney Bertullo has some experience in these matters as well as I do, and I'd like to be a part of that.
Absolutely. So once the Board of Finance does their part, we have a working document that will come to the Board of Selectmen.
I just want to make sure I understand Selectman Stevenson. Did you want us to you want us to review the procedure, or you want to have input in the procedure?
I'd like us to review and have possible input. I'd like to know exactly what's being discussed. But in terms of cybersecurity, I'd like to have some input in that.
Well, like I said, once the document is completed, or you're welcome to certainly come to a Board of Finance meeting too. If you want to have involvement. Rex itself, that's not a problem.
I think it's been a long period of time since we had this cyber attack, almost last a year now, and steps need to be taken. I'm sure steps have been taken, but it needs to be reduced to protocol in writing.
And the conversation was had between the 3 of them, the policies and procedures were put together, it got to the board, and the board sent it back to have some changes made.
Okay. Again, my broader point is that this board should be involved in general administration, budget making, budget monitoring, the financial long-term planning, that's Board of Finance.
I don't think anybody's debating on that. I'm just
Okay.
simply saying that we need to have one document first. Doesn't make any sense to have 2 boards going back and forth. Let's let them do their work first, and then it can come to you guys, and you guys can
Very
finish
good.
up.
Very good.
That's all.
For Selectman Woman, you mentioned the pool, the high school pool earlier. Selectwoman, yes. You know, I still have embedded, and everybody else does, select men, select
I
man,
know.
you know, and it's.
It's
We
okay.
now have person,
Select
woman.
person, yeah.
And it's hard to get it out of our minds, and I'm the biggest proponent of the term persons, that's for sure.
Why we
Anyway,
changed it.
do we still have a viable community building committee?
You know, that was in my notes, right, community center meeting, it's right there, to have a meeting.
I can speak that it was suspended
I know.
until, the professional staff did work, and that was done 7, 8 months ago, maybe,
I think it's time for another meeting.
so.
Because our initial objectives obviously have gone by the wayside, you know, new building, new concepts, private, public concept, all that's gone by the wayside. And so we're working on the existing building. We also talked about the possibility of a separate building with a pool in it. But I think the discussion I've had with the first select woman has been, and with the high school administration, or the school administration, is to incorporate this high school pool into the community center concept.
Yep.
So the high school would have first dibs with regard to practices and meets for the high school team during the course of the school day, because the pool is not used for gymnasium classes any longer.
Correct.
During the course of the day and even the weekend, the public could use the pool. And the pool needs renovation and would be a great town school project, just like we did with the central office. And I think we should talk about that, have some serious discussion.
I 100% agree.
I mean, there's no reason that pool should be lying dormant in the public, older population. Young moms could, dads could come with children during the day. That building cannot be used.
If you want to I guess, put that committee back into play.
And that could be, you know, ancillary to the community center. And the community center could take over jurisdiction of the pool, and high school would have use for the meets and the practices.
And to your point, so I can stand up with that. You know, this year, we felt the divide between the Board of Ed and the town with their budget, right? And the whole thing is to come together, but I think if we could get that community, we get that pool, and the community knows that they could use it throughout the day, it's gonna take, when we used to be able to walk the track during the day,
That's right.
use the tennis courts during the day, I think once we get that back of, yes, this is our taxpayers using it, they can use it during the day, right, and the high school's not using it. I think it's gonna start bringing back to see what is actually being done, and that people can see what's being done.
Agreed.
So I agree with that.
You know, the pool could be maintained by the high school custodial staff. They know what they're doing. And the community center could be, staff could be in charge of the operation with regard to the public
I
and
know they have to
coordination.
use a security guard in between, so no one can get into the school, I mean, that's something about.
They could also lock the doors, right? I mean, there's a way, it's separated, so.
That's right. There was a lot of concern with the movement of the central office to the high school. And Marie and Dr. Compton and myself had to deal with that the public would be getting into the school through the central office. Not happening. We have secure measures to prevent that from happening.
Fritz took the ground on that.
Pardon?
I said Fritz took ground on that.
I know there is, the one small issue is, and I just learned this recently, the temperature of the pool.
The pool needs renovation.
No, the swim team needs it at like 78 degrees
I
to
understand.
swim in, and it gets too cold for swim lessons and for people of Rich's age to go. So, I mean, that's one throwback.
It's true, the swim team needs to have a cold water.
I never knew that. I didn't think they
But
wanted.
again, I think a consultant, an engineer, an architect has to be hired to look at that pool and see how we could do it. And there has to be a way to do it.
Well, let's see what we talked about. The pool is probably too outdated to really warm it. I guess it takes 3 days to warm the water up. But it's because it's very outdated equipment.
Yes,
Yes.
it was built in 1969.
2 years or no?
And finally, I just want to state, and for Selectwoman and I went at it a little bit earlier, I want to state that I have the utmost respect for Mr. Miller, the utmost respect. But there was a bruising battle over salaries this year during the budget. And I just want to say that I think we needed to talk about that more publicly as a board, that's all, the salary issues, that's all. I'm not going to be more contentious on the issue at this point. I don't want to prolong this meeting any longer, but I do want to make it clear I have the utmost respect for Mr. Miller.
We can ask Mr. Miller right now, how much is your salary?
132.5.
What is it?
132.5.
132.5.
Thank you.
And no hard feelings at all. We've been doing this way too long. Fell on the other.
Phil on the other hand.
What did I do?
You can't even hear it. So you can't hear.
That's how I keep this big smile on my face all the time.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Danka, Selectman Danka, Selectwoman Danka.
I'm so tired. I hope this, so, I know there's a lot of projects going on, but I've been doing a lot of driving around the state. And I'd like to see us kind of review some of the, we could, I don't know where, I know that up where, I know Chatfield Park is not the right location, but I'd like to look into getting like a park that's fenced in for the kids, splash pad, and all of that stuff.
Splash
There's a
pad?
lot, yeah?
I have a place on Walnut Street.
$1,000 just for a splash pad.
I'm just saying, it doesn't need to be next year, but we could look into, why? Oh my gosh, the kids love them. A lot of the towns have them. It's great to go to a park with little ones that is fenced in, so anyway, I would love to see it in town because I'm currently taking my grandkids out of town.
How much was your water bill?
From the middle of July to the middle of June, it was middle of July to middle of August is $6,200. Expensive.
Are they drinking it or bathing in it?
What it is Phil, is they put it on, they leave it on and walk away.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's packed.
yeah, we noticed that.
And they also have the fire pumpers there on the weekends.
Really?
Yeah.
Any flesh-eating bacteria?
so,
Fenced in park?
yeah, yeah. It's nice to let the kids run around and play and not worry about if they're running into the woods, a creek. Turn your head and they're, because, you know, honestly, I'm young. I really struggle once they're a certain distance catching up, so, yeah. Also, you know, I know for myself, I do not play the political game very well, because I'm not really a politician and I sit in this seat for how long. But, you know, we're not in national politics. There are really no big issues that are happening here. This is a small town and our neighbors. And I have said this so many times, but between Republicans, Democrats, even, you know, people, independent, I find that we're all going in the same direction. We're just taking different, it's the paths we're taking on how to get to the end result, where there's some bellyache and disagreement. So, you know, I just want us all to stay focused on that, because if we start playing politics too hard, we start getting away from the real business of what we really want to all, and, you know, I know everybody on this board personally, what we all personally want to do, because I know we're all very passionate about the good for Seymour and doing what's best, and that's, you know, where I want to remain focused and not bickering over, you know, I can disagree with perceptions, because we all have different perceptions on conversations, right? But I don't want to keep going down that road either, because it takes us off the focus of the people and the town. And let's try not to make it, I get it's an election year, but I am begging everyone to just not make it too political. It is what it is. We're in politics, and I get it. But I want to remain focused on doing the best we can for Seymour and not playing a game on, because it's an election year, and that's where I'll leave it. That's it. That's all I have this evening. I know, I like to grandstand once in a while, hey. It's late, it's just, you know, finding my words at this point in the night is kind of tough, because I'd really like to say motion to adjourn, so I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, congratulations, obviously, to the Connecticut Hurricanes on their accomplishment. welcome aboard Mr. Henry, to the police officers involved in that incident. My hat's off to them. They do a terrific job for some of the elements that they're faced with in our community today. Kurt, nice job on this ARP report. It's kind of shortens it up a little bit and puts it in a little more better perspective. And I guess the last thing that I have is, with Anne Marie's permission, I'm looking in to see what we can do about getting underneath the Trestle Tavern. Those walls are deep, horrible. And if you know me,
Yeah,
and if you know me, you know I'm a big advocate of main avenues, like Derby Avenue coming into town, and all of the other ones. And I think it's time to get something done. Reaching out to a few people and getting some information. Maybe we can get them painted. Maybe we can
I could give you some information right now.
murals.
Originally, when there was some graffiti, I was working in New Haven and the DOT office was right next door. There was calls made about what can and can't be done. That's all state owns all those walls. And they didn't give us any issues at all. They just says do what you got to do for painting to block up that stuff. Repairing is where you're going to get into a struggle if there's anything structural. But I'm pretty sure with not much help, and I could get you some good contacts in DOT to get stuff. If you want to get a game plan, present it, I think that you can make real progress with that.
Well, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle here, okay? And there's a couple of different agencies that are involved. And I want to get
There's one agency.
Metro North has nothing to do with the Trestles?
Connecticut DOT owns all the property in Connecticut. The Metro North is the operator over that property.
Okay.
So that's all DOT, and it's all, I had contacts before, but I've been retired for 5 years. And, but it wasn't a hassle when that graffiti came up, remember?
Right.
That wasn't a hassle. So there's some really good people we could talk to.
So we did reach out to the DOT, we did get permission that we could paint them.
Yeah.
It has to be a non-lead based paint, and if we're gonna do a design, they have to approve the design.
Well, one of the resources that we have is actually the Valley Arts Council. They have not been approached yet, but these are the folks that did the work
On the, skate park.
on the skate
Yeah.
park when
Yeah,
when it was first done, and then it was vandalized with graffiti, and Valley Arts Council came back and did it again. So it's just something that I'm working on. I'm not saying it's going to get done today, tomorrow, but
If you'd like some help, just let me know.
very good, thank you. And that's all I have, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Wait.
Oh, you got something else?
Yeah, I just wanna say, the awards committee,
We need to have a subcommittee meeting, a committee meeting. Perhaps we can do that before the next meeting.
all right. And then you want a community center meeting, right?
I don't know if that's something we need to tackle like this.
No, I'm just.
But I mean, in terms of the committee, at some point in the near future, you might want to push that off till the
Well,
late.
I think once, to that point, I think once we find out about this steep
Yes.
grant, which I believe is the middle of October, at that point, we'll at least have a little budget they can do some
Sure.
work with. That was always the thing, we never really had any money.
And we can talk about the high school pool.
Okay. I think, the schools are having early dismissal tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday because of the heat. Next Monday, there is a Board of Ed meeting. The Wildcat Swim Club? The Wildcat Swim Club is making a presentation to the Board of Ed of either something. So I'll be there. And I think that's it. No, this Wednesday, remember, real quick, remember how when we were doing Holbrook Road, there was that memorial to that Brian,
Oh, yeah.
I forgot his last name, but that Brian Kutzit or something. We had the mom, we got hold of the mom. The mom came, we took the memorial, the mom took the cross down. Guerrera Construction ordered a sign in memory of, the mom is coming back next Saturday, and we're gonna put the cross back up
With the sign?
with the sign.
Cool.
Where was this located? Because I, Holbrook Road.
So when is that going to take place?
That's gonna be next Saturday,
Next Saturday? Like a week from this Saturday?
the 9th.
The 9th?
At 11
This
o'clock.
forthcoming Saturday?
At what time? 11 o'clock. We're gonna put the sign back up, and there's gonna be a sign that says, in memory of, and slow down.
Appropriate.
And I believe,
Motion to adjourn.
thank you, motion by Trish,
Second.
second by Lombardi. All in favor?
Aye.
That was a long meeting.